Love is one of the most misunderstood things in our lives. We talk about it endlessly. We sing about it. We dream of finding it. We imagine it as the answer to our loneliness and our fears. But what if the very way we approach love is the reason it slips away from us? What if the more we cling to love, the faster it disappears? This isn't just an idea. It's something you can see in your own life if you watch carefully. Think about the moment you fall in love. At the beginning, there's a freshness. You don't know what will happen. You're curious. You're alive. You want to discover who the other person is. There is a freedom in it, because you haven't yet made it into something fixed, something that belongs to you. But almost immediately the mind wants to hold on to it. You want to make it permanent. You want guarantees. You want security. And in that desire to secure love, to make it last forever, you begin to strangle it. Krishnamurti once said that love has no tomorrow. What did he mean by that? He meant that love is alive only in the present. The moment you turn it into a possession, something you hold on to, you are no longer loving. You are afraid. Afraid of losing. Afraid of change. Afraid of being alone. And fear cannot live side by side with love. Fear drives us to cling, but clinging turns love into a cage. You can see this in everyday relationships. A couple starts off deeply connected. They share everything. They feel alive with each other. But slowly, the desire to keep that feeling forever takes over. So they begin to demand things. They demand loyalty. They demand attention. They demand proof of love. And each demand is a brick in a wall. Slowly, without even realizing it, they build a prison around love. The more they cling, the more they protect, the less alive love feels. Until one day, they wake up and realize that what they have is no longer love at all, but a contract, a routine, a memory of what once was. Have you ever noticed how heavy relationships can feel when they are based on possession? You start to feel suffocated. You can't breathe, and the other person can't breathe either. But isn't love supposed to be freeing? Isn't it supposed to bring lightness and joy? Why then does it so often bring conflict, jealousy, arguments, and pain? Maybe it's because we mistake attachment for love. We mistake dependence for love. We mistake the need for comfort for love. And the more we mistake these things, the more we lose the very thing we're searching for. Krishnamurti points to something radical. Real love cannot be held. It cannot be captured. It cannot be stored away like money in a bank account. The moment you try to own it, it dies. Love is like the wind. You can feel it on your face. You can hear it move through the trees. But try to catch it in your hands and it vanishes. The tragedy is that most of us are so desperate for love that we suffocate it before it even has a chance to grow. So what does this mean for us in our daily lives? Does it mean we should avoid relationships? Of course not. It means we must look at how we approach them. Do we go into relationships with the hunger to possess, to control, to demand? Or do we enter them with freedom, with openness, with the willingness to let the other person be completely themselves? This is not easy, because our conditioning tells us that love must mean ownership, that if someone loves us, they belong to us. But if you look closely, you'll see that ownership is the beginning of the end. Think about jealousy. Why does jealousy exist? Because you believe that the other person belongs to you, that their attention, their affection, their presence should be exclusively yours. And the moment you sense that it might not be, fear rises, anger rises, conflict begins. But if you saw love as something free, something that cannot be owned, jealousy would have no ground to stand on. You wouldn't cling, you wouldn't demand, you would simply love. Now, some people might hear this and think, doesn't that mean I could lose the person I love? Yes, that's exactly what it means. Because life itself is uncertain. People change, circumstances change. Nothing can be guaranteed. But here's the paradox. When you accept that love is uncertain, when you stop clinging to it, you actually open the door to a deeper, more alive connection. You are no longer trying to trap love in a cage. You are letting it breathe. And when love can breathe, it grows. It deepens. It flourishes in ways you could never plan. This is the heart of Krishnamurti's teaching, that freedom and love are not two separate things. They are the same. If there is no freedom, there is no love. If there is fear, control, possession, there is no love. So the real challenge is not how to make love last forever. The real challenge is whether we can meet love without fear, without clinging, without the need to hold it tightly in our hands. When you begin to observe your own relationships with this in mind, something very interesting happens. You start to see how much of what you call love is actually fear in disguise. Fear of being alone, fear of not being important, fear of not being enough. And because of that fear, you cling to the other person, hoping they will fill the emptiness inside you. But can another person really take away your loneliness? For a moment, maybe. For a day, maybe. But sooner or later, that emptiness returns, and then you ask them to do more, to give more, to constantly reassure you. That endless demand exhausts both people, and love begins to fade. If you look closely, you'll see that the root of clinging is the desire for certainty. We want love to be secure, like a contract that never changes. But love is not secure. Love is alive, and anything alive is constantly moving, changing, unfolding. Trying to make it permanent is like trying to stop a river from flowing. You can build dams, you can build walls, but eventually, the river will overflow or dry up. And then you are left disappointed, hurt, bitter. But the disappointment only comes because you asked love to be something it could never be. So what would it look like to live without clinging? Imagine a relationship where you are not trying to control the other person. You are not making endless demands of them. You are not terrified of losing them. Instead, you meet them as they are, moment by moment. You listen, you care, you share. And when they change, you allow space for that change, just as you would hope they allow space for yours. That doesn't mean you don't feel pain if they leave or if things shift. Of course you feel pain. But it means the pain does not come from betrayal, from broken ownership, from shattered expectations. The pain is simply the pain of change, which is part of life. Krishnamurti once pointed out that when you love without clinging, you are not attached to the image you have created of the other person, because so often, we are not in love with the person themselves, but with our idea of who they are. We create an image of them, and then we cling to that image, expecting them to always match it. But people are not images. They are living, changing beings, and when reality does not match your image, conflict begins. If you can drop the image, if you can see the person directly, freshly, without comparing them to your expectations, then love becomes something alive again. Of course, the question is, can you do this? Can you see when you are clinging? Can you watch your own mind without judgment? Because the truth is, most of us don't even realize we are suffocating love. We think we are protecting it. We think we are keeping it safe. But protection and safety are illusions. The more you try to protect love, the more fragile it becomes. Like a delicate flower, it needs openness, sunlight, space. If you keep it locked away, it withers. This doesn't mean relationships should be careless or without responsibility. It means that responsibility grows naturally when there is love. You don't have to cling to be committed. You don't have to control to be loyal. True commitment comes from care, not from fear. And when there is no fear, loyalty and responsibility are effortless. They are not forced. They are not demanded. They flow naturally, just as kindness flows naturally when you see someone in need. So perhaps the real question is not, how can I hold on to love? But can I be free enough to let love move as it will? This is frightening, because it means you cannot predict the future. But in that very uncertainty lies the beauty of love. Because it is not mechanical, it is not something you can program or guarantee. It is alive, and only in freedom can it stay alive. So the question returns to you, here and now. Are you truly loving, or are you only holding on? Are you letting the person you care about live fully, or are you quietly trying to shape them into what makes you feel safe? Are you meeting them in the present moment, or are you caught in an image of who you think they should be? These are not easy questions, but they are the ones that reveal whether what you call love is real, or only attachment dressed up in beautiful words. When you begin to see this clearly, without trying to change it, something remarkable happens. You notice how your grip softens. You notice how fear loses its control over you. The need to constantly protect, to constantly demand, to constantly secure the future begins to fade. And in its place, love begins to breathe again. Love begins to move freely. Love becomes alive in a way you may never have experienced before. Krishnamurti often reminded us that love is not desire, not possession, not a bargain. It is not the product of fear, nor the outcome of loneliness. Real love exists only in freedom, and when love is free, it is not weak. It is immeasurably strong. It doesn't fade because you're no longer trying to trap it. It doesn't wither because you're no longer locking it away. Instead, it deepens, it grows, it flourishes in the open space you've given it. So perhaps the greatest act of love is not to hold tighter, but to let go. To give both yourself and the one you love the freedom to be. To allow love to be uncertain, alive, and real. When you stop asking love to guarantee you comfort, when you stop making it into a possession, you discover its true beauty. And in that discovery, you may find that love, in its purest form, has been with you all along, waiting for you to stop clinging and finally let it live